Hal here, and I just want to take a minute to talk a little bit about Onyx. Been using it now for about a year, deer hunting, moose hunting, turkey hunting, all of that, and really come to really like it. I like the satellite imagery mainly because I can locate hidden fields, for turkey hunting, the bogs for moose hunting. You can tell the different stage of cuts up here in the big woods for deer, whether it's clear cuts, select cuts, see the skid roads, and it's really a big help I found coming out at night. It's can really tell you like the easiest way to get out, if you got a couple miles, a couple hours to walk out. And so anyways, got the app on my phone, got the chip in my GPS, and I'm good to go. So not only that, it's used by 4,600 game wardens across the country, which is pretty incredible, and Bureau of Land Management, Forest Service, wildlife biologists, and all that. They all use it, so I guess it's something you ought to be using too. So anyways, go to onx.com and you punch in the promo code BWB, and you're going to get a 20% discount. Good hunting.
This is the Big Woods Bucks podcast. Come explore the big woods and timber in North America with your host, Maine Master Guide and deer tracking expert Hal Blood. Listen to Hal and co-hosts Lee Libby and Joe Cruzy as they unlock the secrets of big woods whitetails. Each episode will provide valuable insights into the tried and true system Hal has used for the last 40 years to scout, locate, and hunt mature big woods bucks. Listen and laugh as the crew discusses Hal's legendary adventures and learn how to apply a lifetime's worth of lessons from the big woods to your own hunting and outdoor adventures.
Welcome to the Big Woods Bucks podcast. I'm your host, Hal Blood, sitting here in Rangeley with Lee Libby.
Howdy.
And Joe Cruzy.
Hello.
And this week we've got the head moose biologist, Lee Cantor, and we're going to talk a little bit about moose. We've had the lottery drawing this year, and people are getting ready for their moose hunts, all the lucky permit winners. So, welcome again, Lee. We had you on, I know, a couple years ago at the drawing, but we wanted to have you back and talk moose.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Yeah.
So, as far as the drawing went, I kind of liked the format this year. It was. I know that obviously going to the towns and everything is popular, but it was nice the way it was done this year. In fact, I don't know if if the department would want to look at. It probably cut down a lot on attendance at the festival, but I was locked right into it. I kept on getting up to leave, and I couldn't.
Yeah, that's pretty riveting stuff right there.
yeah, watching the screen scroll.
It's kind of like watching paint dry.
What does that say about us?
Yeah,
that's what it's come to.
Riveting is the perfect word, Lee.
Yeah.
I'll admit to you that, of course, with my name in the drawing too, that I couldn't pull away from it. I can't explain why, but I couldn't either.
Yeah. Huh.
I think I did about 2.5 hours.
No kidding.
I felt like, you always obviously recognize all the names you see, but Jackman seemed to be like, I think I came up with like 20 people. In Jackman alone, which is a lot for such a small town.
Yeah, we had a good showing. You got drawn, Lee?
I did not.
Oh, I thought you said you were in on it or something. I thought you said you were.
No. I mean, my name was in on the lottery. I put in every year, but I didn't get drawn. And when I heard people from my town getting drawed, I was happy and mad at the same time because I figured every time somebody got drawn from my town, my chances were going downhill.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, it took me 33 years to get drawn, so you keep hanging in there.
Yeah. Well, I don't have 33 years to wait, but
you'll get one when you're 70 automatically. Ain't that how that goes now?
Something like that.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, did they They were talking about changing that to 65. Did that ever go through?
Yeah, it is 65 right now. Yep.
Oh, it is.
65 in addition to having X number of points in. So you have to be accumulating your points and be 65.
Yeah, I think it's 30 bonus points and 65. So,
Yep.
well, there's hope for me to get another one then.
Well, and the good Lee got one this year. Lee Shands.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Lee Shands finally got his. Remember, we talked before when we had you on 2 years ago. He'd been 30.
It was last year. It was a year ago.
Was it last year?
Yeah, at Cabela's.
Oh, at Cabela's, yeah. And Lee Shands, finally got drawn this year.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I watched his video there, and I thought that was one of the most awesome videos I've seen, his deer hunting video.
No, that's Lee. That's Lee Libby. That's the guy.
The bad Lee.
That's the bad Lee. Here. That's the one.
That's not Lee Shands?
No, that's Lee Libby. He's one of my podcast co-hosts. He's here on the phone. Lee Shands is from down in...
any Lee who does that is awesome. So
that's right.
It's still, whichever Lee it was, it's a subtle... It's a great video.
Well, thank you.
His head is swelling as you speak.
The earmuffs are going to pop right off here in a minute.
Yeah.
I don't think coming from me, that's, it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah.
We got a couple more coming out this year, Lee, dear. We had some cameramen follow some of the guys, and Lee, the bad Lee sitting here, he couldn't hunt because he had too much carpentry work to do this year, but Joe had a cameraman for muzzleloader season because he guided the rest of the season, and Timmy Bolduc had a cameraman and shot a nice buck over at his camp in somewhere near Andover, and then I had a cameraman periodically during the season, and I ended up shooting a pretty good one with my muzzleloader at the end of the season there. So those films will be coming out pretty quick.
Yeah.
Hal couldn't stand it when he saw all the good press that Badly got, so he had to go out and shoot a nice buck on film.
Yeah, I'm the trendsetter. Yeah.
So
Well, how's the moose herd doing, Lee?
Well, I would say actually that this year was a pretty good one.
Yeah.
And when I say that, that's just based on. So when we look at that ovary data to look at reproduction from the fall hunt, from the late October hunt, we had a significant bump up. And what that translates to is that means that there would be more calves being dropped last month in May as opposed to other years. So there was a bump up in how many calves are being dropped in this year.
Yep.
And then looking at our research, we put out 130 GPS collars on calves. And when I say calves, I mean a calf in January. And we all know that winter tick can take them come March, April. And this year, looking up north at District 2, we had our lowest mortality years. I only lost 5 calves in District 2 this year, which was the best year ever out of the last 7 years of collaring animals. And then our District 8 over in Hal's country there, it wasn't good, but it was not the worst either. It was about 54%. So we lost about half of our collared calves, which is better than some of the worst years. And then we put an additional 60 collars up in District 4. And that was in between, as far as losses, in between District 2 and District 8. So overall, to me, that's an improvement. And then lastly, we do helicopter surveys in the wintertime, and we did a bunch of work over in that Zone 4 area. Boy, we saw a pile of moose. So there's nothing wrong with that, I guess.
Good.
Yeah, so that's where you're doing the extra permits over in that part of Zone 4. Is that this year?
No, so we're proposing that.
Oh, I get you.
And we're working on. We've already collected a lot of information from aerial surveys, collaring animals, all that type of stuff. We're hoping to implement that next year in 2021. And we propose to divide that into 2 units right down the middle, and increase harvest on one side of the time to see if we can impact the influence of ticks on moose.
Yep. Yeah, I think that'll be a good study.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to, it's the kind of work that needs to be done. It's the kind of proof in the pudding that needs to be done that we can hopefully get the public to buy off on, because that's really how you're going to figure this out with, different possible outcomes. But that's the way to do it.
Yeah, we're going to find out if my theory was right or not. I've been talking about for quite a few years. So we'll see.
Well, you know how it is. I mean, you know how it is, with managing anything, right? I mean, try to manage your own family. It's everybody's got an opinion, and moose. We've had 40 years of moose management where people, for the most part, are generally happy with, how the permits are and the lottery and all this. And people, any kind of change, there's going to be a reaction to, let alone a significant change.
Right. Oh,
and
yeah.
so how do you change the minds of the majority of people to do something that would be a positive and scientifically sound way to figure things forward?
Right. Yeah, it's the same example of when we were talking to Nathan. He bumped up the deer, any deer permits this year to I think it was 110,000 roughly or something. Yeah. And there was already people kicking and screaming. There won't be no deer left. And I remember growing up, it was either sex anyways. There was no bucks only until the mid '80s, and nobody worried about the deer herd back then.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy, but people get in their mindset, like you said.
Yeah.
So, as you can imagine, we all know a lot of people that hunt over on that side of 4. Are you choosing that area because it is a high number, or it's easier to break it off? And how did you arrive at Zone 4?
That's a great question. And as you know, there's nothing that's easy. So there's a whole list of criteria, and you could absolutely start with saying there's a high number of moose. That's for sure. Okay. It also, another criteria is it needs to be in an area where, we're having some impact from winter tick, and clearly that's happening across the whole core range from Moosehead region north. The Moosehead region, Hal's backyard there, we've always had a lot of pushback, even trying to get any cow permits in there. So that would be a very difficult area to operate in. We understand the impacts and people's desire to see moose out there, and there's a definite disconnect between moose abundance, moose numbers, and then moose viewing. And, the state can totally appreciate that. It's an important part of moose management. But when you have winter tick on the landscape, we have to considerations for that as well. We all know that District 4 moose on the west side are going to Canada as well along the borderline, the boundary. And, some people talk about that. People who operate in that area know that. Canadian moose, our moose, they're the same. The Quebecers, they told me the other day, they thank me all the time. They think it's great. It's wonderful, right? A lot of moose get harvested along that border on both sides on both countries. Obviously, geographically, it lies between District 2 and District 8. And so there's some differences. There's some similarities between what's happening latitudinally that we can look at in District 4. So there's a whole host of, reasons why that's a particularly good area. The size of the area that we want to do would be of debate for some people. But, again, this is about management and trying to get something off the ground. Not everybody may agree with this, but we're hoping we can get the majority of people to agree with this. And then the last thing I'll just say is that we have everything in line to be able to measure, which is important, those changes in that area over time. So that's critical. You can't just put in a management action without the ability to look at and detect over time whether you've made any changes or not. So we have that ability in the sky and on the ground to do that.
Yeah, that's good.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
It's like you said, you got to start somewhere. It's really the only way to figure out, it's a hypothesis, I guess at this point. It's a theory, and there's only one way to test it, is to knock the herd down. And so do you have an idea now? I'm sure you have an idea, but is it something that you're able to talk about as far as numbers of moose you're going to look to take out of there?
We're not quite there yet because it's going to be based on some of the population parameters we look at, which is density and bull cow calf and survival and all that. So we really want to look at that up to date. So in other words, this coming winter, we'll look at data we get back from the harvest. We'll go and fly that area again. So we'll be able to compare this past winter to this one. we're going to put out hopefully another 60, maybe 70 collars out there again, see what spring looks like. Because I don't think we're going to need that solid number if all goes as planned until essentially a year from now, the following spring. But I may be wrong there. So any current data, the more we can get, the better. To get another year of that data under our belt, I think will be really, really a good thing for us to see where we're at.
Yeah. I've been hearing it from a lot of people locally up where we are, and we've been talking about it amongst ourselves, how many more moose we're seeing this late spring, early summer. It's noticeable. We always knew back when we had that bad die-off a few years back, there was going to be a gap. There was going to be a certain age group that we were going to see it when there was less mature bulls, which is what we're seeing now. A lot of young ones, but definitely a lot more moose are, we're seeing now.
Seeing a lot of yielding bulls this year. And too bad a lot of them are like along the Route 201 corridor. And
right.
Joe said one got hit, not a yearling, but an older bull, I guess, got hit the other day down there by Johnson Mountain.
Yeah, it was probably, if I had to guess, I would say it was a 4 or 5 year old bull. But I saw him that evening going home. I left and he crossed in front of me, and I thought, well, that one's looking pretty good. I hope he gets off the road. And the next morning I came back and he was dead. Yeah. So, but I mean, that's such a small percentage of what's out there. So, casualty of war.
Yeah. So there's one of the guys on our Big Woods team here. He does a lot of antler hunting. He's got a dog, and he picks up a lot of antlers. But he's been doing it for years, and most generally he goes up to like Zone 1, up around Allagash there, and spreads out all kind of pretty much across Zone 1.
You might not want to get too specific. Nick might bring you back.
Yeah. But anyways, he not this spring, but a year ago, he found, I think I told you this anyway, I might not have told you the number, but he found 40 dead moose in the spring looking for antlers. And this year,
right.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, and then this year, I don't know, not necessarily the exact same places, but I'm sure a lot of them were the exact same places. And he spent a couple weeks there, and then he spent some time in Zone 4 afterwards for about a week, and he found a total of 4 dead moose this year. That's quite a lot of difference, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that seems to follow what our GPS collar data is, and that's why we put the resources into doing that kind of work. I mean, it's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. I mean, we got moose in Zone 4 that is, as you know, I mean, they're not the easiest place to get to. And last year I had a snowmobile that was trying to kill me, and I got a nice chronic injury from that. But I mean, I'm out there quite a bit doing that, and I enjoy it. But it's invaluable information. And now this is 7 years into it. We've put GPS collars on over 600 moose, and we're not done yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we're fortunate that, the department's come a long way. I mean, we have the support to do the work, we have the resources to do the work, and we have the wherewithal to go out and do it. And, it's great. I mean, I've had other jobs in my life. It's nice when you're given the resources and the, ability to go forward and do the work that needs to be done. And, the moose resource in Maine, remains extraordinary. And not everybody in North America realizes what we have here. And so we need to keep it going.
We were just talking about that at lunch, about how unique we really have, our moose hunt is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Lee, what would you say, what's the best guesstimate about what the population is right now?
You add up the numbers. I mean, again, we do a rotation over 5 years through these surveys because of the time it takes to do it. And, we're probably still between that 50 to 70,000 number. And there's always going to be a wide variation in trying to get more precise than that, just based on the survey methodology. And, the way it is that, as you know, the Moosehead region north accounts for, 95% of the moose in the state of Maine. And so you get a little bump up in areas in the north, and you're talking thousands of square miles, and that accounts for a lot of moose. But yeah, this winter was pretty tough. I had the first helicopter survey where we got into a storm where we were just trying to get the hell out of Dodge. And I tell you what, that's not for the faint of heart, and that's certainly not for me. I'm not a thrill seeker, but and that was over in Rangeley, where you guys are right now.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I'll come get you, Lee. Don't worry.
I like
come
to
get me. Well,
yeah, I'll come get you.
I like to hear these stories.
Well, it was one of those things where it's actually interesting because we got a guy working for us who is now the New Hampshire moose biologist. And so he took over for Christine Rhines, who was the moose biologist there for over 30 years. And so Henry's a young guy. He's a good guy. He graduated University of New Hampshire, did his master's degree on moose down there. So we took Henry to do the survey with us. Well, he was in New Hampshire at the time. He met us at the airport in Rangeley. We landed with my buddy Chris, who's the main Forest Service Ranger pilot. We landed in Rangeley. And we find out, we top off in Rangeley and then go scout and count our moose. And we land in Rangeley, and Chris looks at us and goes, "There's no fuel. There's no jet fuel." And we look at him, we go, "Okay." And we got kind of a low cloud ceiling. And we fill up the helicopter. That was it. Fuel is done. We got about an hour and a half of search time. So we go out searching for moose. We're things are great. And we're teaching Henry about sex and aging moose from 200 feet above ground. Things are going great. So now Chris has to radio and figure out where we're going to get fuel. So he finds out we're going to have to go to Parlin, New Hampshire and fuel up.
Oh,
right?
God.
So we start heading around towards Parlin, and we're at the point now where we're just making a beeline, and we're not going to count any moose. And we're flying over country, that border country between Maine and New Hampshire, which was really moosey, and I really wanted to survey to that west of Rangeley. Anyways, the cloud is descending a little bit more, spitting snow a little bit. We're not too worried because of the forecast. We go to Parlin, we fill up the fuel, we look outside, and it's snowing. So we got to go back to Rangeley, drop off Henry. As soon as we get up in the air, we can't see above any of the hills right there out of Parlin.
Oh.
We're not talking about Mount Success. We're talking about the smaller hills. We can't see anything. I'm using my stupid phone to follow our flight path because Chris has a flight path straight back to Rangeley as fast as we can. We're flying right above the treetops, and I'm looking at the ground going, yeah, we should be over Mooslemuguntic any second. Okay, there it is. And we're flying right above the lake to get back to Rangeley, drop off Henry, and then get out. So we drop off Henry, and that whole flight was unpleasant as all hell. We get to Rangeley, drop Henry off, and now we start down to get south. So we had to follow the road right down. So we're flying right above the road. So instead of flying a straight line, you know how curvy the road is in the Rangeley, right? So we're following the track of that road to get us back down into some good country. And I think we had to drop off one of the other guys in Norwich Walk, and then we hit some freezing rain, and it sucked.
That sounds like fun to me.
It kind of not. Yeah.
Anytime you guys want to take my place,
I'm in. I call
I'm
it
good
first.
with it.
I've had.
I tell you what, like they say, right? The weather up there is different. Even when the forecasters are saying, "Oh no, you're good, everything's good."
Oh,
you get up there and you get right in it.
That local weather forecast is entertainment for me in the morning, Lee, because I know they don't know. They don't have a clue what's going to happen up here.
Yeah.
No.
Well, it has been consistent. We're trying to pull off surveys in District 7 have been a challenge. We did a couple of flights with the tribe, with the Penobscots over their land. It's been a really neat collaboration where we do a hybrid transect survey, but also sex and age moose at the same time. And so you're just covering all the ground. And we got into some freezing rain there on a separate survey. We had to land the helicopter in the woods. And for the first time ever, I had to take out my friggin' credit card and scrape off the helicopter windshield.
No way.
Yeah, ice is never good. That's for sure.
Well, we went through this cloud, and it was like poof. It's like, all right, land it.
Well, that's the beauty of the helicopter.
Yeah,
that's the beauty of the helicopter is you can do that. You just
landed at somebody's camp. Maybe it was your camp. I don't know, but
yeah. So
the fridge was empty.
Going back to the radio caller, you said you're adding another 60 now. The ones that you've already done they're on the Moose for Life, correct?
No, well, it's a mixed bag. So every since day one, right, in 2014, every male that gets captured gets a expandable collar that has a breakaway device on it. So it's meant to rot and fall off, okay? This year, in 2020, in January, when we captured the 130 calves, since we're ending the intensive District 8 and 2 work where we collar animals, fall the cows and calves this time of year, and then go in within 24 hours to recover mortalities, we're going to just be operating in District 4. And since the other two districts were ending, basically what I'm saying is we took 130 calf collars this January and made them all breakaway collars. So like every week right now, I'll get a text saying there's a mortality, but it's just a collar dropping off. It's a piece of surgical tubing that, you know, with the dry and wet cycle, they rot off and drop. So we get all those collars back on all these calves. Because all we want to know about District 4 right now is every year we want to know about calf survival, overwintering calf survival. Do they make it to a year old or not?
Right.
So how often do you get calls from hunters that shoot radio collar moose?
Last year, 2019, was the biggest year to date. Mostly up in District 2. I had a couple of shot in District 8. I'd have to look at the numbers again. I think it was at least a dozen that got shot. I had 1 or 2 shot in Quebec.
Interesting.
Yeah, this has been a crazy year for moose moving right now. We had a moose go from Fish River Lake. This was a 3-year-old cow. She went all the way down to Lake Megantic in Quebec. And then you know what she did after that? She turned around and went right back. That's over 130 miles. If you look at the literature on moose movements, they'll talk about 50 miles as being a big deal. And I'm going, okay, well, welcome to Maine.
Right.
Yeah, Fish River Lake. That's in Zone 2, isn't it?
Correct. Yep.
And it went to Meganic, Canada.
Yes.
Holy
I wanted to go over and have some poutine.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. Poutine.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, the Quebec guys have a newer guy as their provincial biologist. He's just been really excellent to deal with, and some of the regional guys have been really excellent just communicating. You shoot them an email, they get right back to you, and they're really interested in stuff and sending me photos of moose along the boundary with collars on it, and that's really been another relationship that's really, really really good lately.
Yeah, that's great.
That to me, that would be one of the most interesting aspects is just looking at the travel. You know, same as the radio collared deer is just how far they're traveling, and it always makes you wonder. I mean, you know, when an animal sets out like that, does it have in mind where it wants to go, or is it just going, you know, till it's happy and then turns around and comes back?
Yeah, I mean, for us, the majority of these moose that are making these significant movements are either 2 years old or 3-year-olds. And typically they're 2-year-old moose. And big movements will either be associated with going to a salt lick or a mineral lick someplace. And clearly the boundary, there's an attraction there. There's other moose that will make a dispersal movement so that they're doing the same deal. But instead of going to a salt lick, they're checking out new country and they're staying. Now, my question is, when you see some 3-year-olds doing that, my feeling is that, look, the winter before this, the 2018-19 winter, was the one that really sucked for moose, right? You guys know how deep the snow was and how persistent it was. And that really was a tax or drain on our moose. And so what we're seeing is with winter tick effects and having a big snow year like that, is that these moose, they make it through their first year and make it into June, but they're in such poor condition that they're spending this whole summer trying to gain back condition. So the first couple of years of their life is kind of stagnating. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I think some of these dispersal movements a year later are saying, look, this moose is now back in better condition, and now I'm making my move to go live someplace else.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
Yeah,
I'm
makes
sticking
sense.
with it right now.
Yeah. Hey, Sal here. I want to talk to you about a new partnership we have with Yokohama Tires. And at Big Woods Bucks, we don't take our partnerships lightly. We focus on things that we can use and can believe in and trust. And I've been running a set of the Yokohama Geolander MTs for about a month now. And over the years, we've had a lot of trouble in the woods, you know, with gravel roads, shale roads, and flat tires and stuff. And So I tried these tires out on a moose hunt, and they worked fabulous. You know, I had no problems with them, and still testing them. But the thing I like too is I made a trip to New York, and they're for a mud tire, they're extremely quiet on the road. Probably the most quiet ones I've had for an aggressive tread tire. And so I'm going to keep at testing them here, but I think they're going to be the ticket. I've used dozens of different tires over the years, and these look like they're going to be the ticket. So anyways, the tires are made right here in the USA, down in Virginia. All the light tires, light truck and car tires. Well, there's like 51 sizes available. And they also have a Geolander XAT as a new tire that it's a little less aggressive, like more of an all-season radial. So anyways, check out their website, Yokohama Tire, and see if it's something you can use. So I had another question about the mortality of the calves in the winter. Was it all the ticks, or was it some of it them other diseases they get?
So in my mind, I would be pretty quick to tell you that the high majority, just about all calves going through the winter, their first winter, die because of the winter tick load on top of anything else they got. So, you know, I can't tell you how many of these things that I've necropsied. It's over 200 of these animals. So you see it over and over again. You compare what you've seen. You send the tissues off to the labs. What happened in New Hampshire with the pathologist there, she basically said, look, do not bring me any more moose carcasses to see, okay? These moose are dying because they're getting the blood sucked out of them from winter tick, and they succumb to that with massive weight loss and anemia by the time March and April rolls around. Now, these moose calves in March and April, many of them have a lot of lung parasites, which is either the lungworm, Dictyococcus, or they have these echinococcus muscle tapeworm cysts in their lungs. Now, if you ask me the same question about an adult cow that I go investigate, I would not be so quick to say, yeah, it was winter tick. Some of these cases with adult cows that die, some of them are very likely meningeal worm or brain worm, and there's a lot of evidence for that when we get to the necropsy mortality site. But for these calves, seeing that massive weight loss, weighing these moose at capture, and weighing them in March and April when they die, and then seeing the tick loads on them and the amount of hair loss gets to be pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Did you say ninja worm?
Meningeal.
Oh, meninja.
Yeah, that's the brain.
But
Okay.
I like that word ninja though, because it's, you know, I mean, it's one of those things that, well, it's one of those, it's a little, you know, it doesn't take, these worms are like a thread-like piece of spaghetti that migrates through the central nervous system and often ends up around the casing, the meninges that encase the brain itself. And so as they're moving through the animals, they're destroying tissue. So that's why you guys see in the woods a moose that's circling around, or it's got a head tilted one way, it's circling that way, or it has hind leg paralysis and can't get up off the ground. I know Hal's dealt with a bunch of these. Sometimes there's blindness associated with the worm because of where it's located. And it only takes about 6 of these worms in the moose's body to cause that kind of pathology. And of course, if you're a moose and you got hind end paralysis and you're sitting in the woods and not going anywhere, you're eventually going to die. And it may take a while, right?
Yeah. No, I've seen a lot of them with the brain
worm. Some of these moose
worm.
can also survive it. Yeah. Some can survive.
I found that one I told you about that was dead at Penobscot when I called you. And then there was another one it was actually right around town in Jackman on the north side. It was a yearling, I can't remember if it was a yearling cow or a bull, but it had brain worm. It walked around with its head, and it was kind of wandering around the area there. And, I don't know, a few weeks later it was dead, you know.
Yeah, and that's one of these things when we go investigate, a dead moose is just looking at the scene around and trying to decipher before we even open the critter up, how did it die? What's the condition of the carcass when you get on it? Did it just curl up like a sleeping dog and die, or did it rip the crap out of all the country around it, or did it have multiple beds in the area? I mean, it's investigative work in some ways to take a look at it.
Yeah, you learn quick. You don't want to get in the middle of them when they're doing their circle.
Yeah.
I've seen them tear up quite an area doing that with the brainworm, doing their circles.
Yeah.
I saw one in
some of them can be
Ontario
aggressive.
once. I saw one in Northern Ontario had it. Same thing, just walked in a circle.
Now that comes from I read this a long time ago that they get that brain worm because the deer carry it, and the wood snail gets in the deer feces and then crawls up the grass, and the moose eat it. Is that true?
Exactly. Yeah. And there's a bunch of different snails and slugs that worm in its life stage will attach to the foot or whatever it's called on the bottom of the snail and slug, and so it's just an intermediate host. And then the poor moose is just doing its job trying to get some feed and snarfles up one of these snails or slugs, and then it enters the moose's system and carries on the rest of its life as a worm. So
Yep.
in the moose's body. Yeah.
So do you have a number, Lee, of percentage when they're dying from either ticks or brainworm, what the difference in those two are? I mean, the brainworm obviously is a lot less, but...
Yeah. I mean, we're fortunate that our adult cow survival is very high. So, I mean, we don't see many cases of this at all. The biggest reason we see meningeal worm is because of what you guys see, when you see a moose doing something weird and then the warden service comes in and takes a look at it. We've had a few cases down east this year. But as far as study animals are concerned, we had 1 year, the first year of our study in District 8, where we lost a whole mess of adult cows on the study that 1 year, and that really caused some concern. And then every year after that, it's been a very low percentage of losses.
Were they in a close area? I mean, were they in the same general area, the ones that had it?
The meningeal worm?
Yeah.
Or you're talking about District 8 back in the day? There?
Yeah, the District 8 back in the day when...
Yeah. No, I mean, that's all spread out based on our capture crews. So when the capture crew comes in to do the work, we pour over the zone map, and because District 8 is so big, we basically partition that area out into 4 different quadrants, and then they have to catch, 10 moose over here, 10 moose over here, 10 here, and 10 here. So they're spread out pretty good.
Yeah.
So, but that being said, I mean, as you guys know, there's some pockets where there's a hell of a lot of moose.
Yeah, right.
And anytime you get a lot of moose together, like any animal, and you increase the densities, bad things are going to happen.
Yeah. So, what do you think we asked this to Nathan too about the buck-doe ratio. What do you think the bull-to-cow ratio is?
In what unit?
Well, I don't know. Is it?
Because I mean, that's one of the things that we do in our aerial surveys. So from the aerial surveys, we're getting our best measure of bull-cow ratios and bull-cow calf for that post-hunt year based on the districts it's in. So, for instance, District 4, I think we were back up to either 70. I want to say, don't quote me, but I want to say it was 70 per 100. Now, the amazing thing about that, so this last winter we did this, is the last time we flew that same survey, I want to say it was around 2012, but don't quote me on that either. Maybe it was 2016. Anyways, at least 5 years have passed, and we had a bull-cow ratio back then of 40 per 100, and we've never seen a bull-cow ratio in a management unit in Maine that low. Typically we have bull-cow ratios, they tend to fall around 60 per 100, okay? So when we got that 40 per 100 in Zone 4, it's like, well, holy crap. But the amazing thing is we flew back there this winter, and it's bumped up quite a bit. So that's a good thing that a moose population can rebound from that. But, of course, as you know, the other part of that equation is the age distribution of those bulls. So you can have 60 per 100, 70 per 100, or whatever. But what's the age distribution of those bulls, and what hunters want or wildlife viewers want, right?
Right. So it roughly runs fairly close to what he was saying the deer up in northern Maine anyway, like 1.5 to 1, 1.5 does to every buck, which is pretty similar, I think, to what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd have to think about that in my small brain.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
We're doing a direct estimate of these things by counting these guys from a helicopter, which it doesn't get any better than that. Few people have the ability to do that kind of a measure, and of course, moose are really nice because you can, even when a bull drops its antlers off, you can sex and age moose. So there's no more critter that's more handy to do in a winter, count than the moose.
So that was going to be I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
That was going to be my next question, is your timing of checking it. You guys usually go like late December, early January. Is that correct?
Yeah. I try to stay away from muzzleloader season, and I don't know, Hal doesn't know this, but I got a sickness about 5-10 years ago, like I never had before, and it's called deer hunting. So I'm kind of sick with it, and I can't stop.
If people would just wear their masks, this wouldn't happen.
So I would tell you that the survey should happen after muzzleloader season, but
yeah,
as soon as we get snow on the ground in December, we're going to go do it. And then of course, as you heard in my previous story, we can't fly when it's snowing out, and we also try to fly with wind speeds that are pretty low. When we're doing the sex age ratio, the comp counts, we can withstand a little bit more wind. It doesn't make me happy. I'm not a big fan of it, but anyways, December, January, and then we stop by mid-February. We don't do any surveys past mid-February.
Well, if you're ever short a counter up in the Jackman area, you got my number. I'm really good at counting. So
he invited me once, and I couldn't go that day, but I'll go.
How's your? The question is, you might be good at counting, but how's your puke ratio?
Oh, you won't get me to puke. I've been in the roughest area.
Okay, well now you're on the radio and you said that, and so now we know that you said you won't puke. Okay,
guaranteed. That's a Joe Cruzy guarantee.
Yeah, Joe has a float plane, so he's a little used to it.
Yeah. We do circles in that too, but so doing this, which is just out of a helicopter, would just be, I can only imagine how accurate you can be and precise. So, have you ever seen a bull that just knocked your socks off?
It's funny you say that because I try to do a bunch of video work, which, as you know, you can't fly. I can't fly. You don't want to look through a video peep sight or whatever. You know what I mean? So I'll stick my phone out and just take a video. So there's a video, and you can hear me talking on the video. And I think it was over in where you guys are in the western part. And we're following a bunch of bulls running towards the woods. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, it's like, holy crap. Because there was one bull with the other bulls. It was just so much bigger than the other bulls. It was laughable. And I'm not talking that the other bulls were a bunch of yearlings or something like that. But it was just like one of those things from a few hundred feet in the air where it's like, that bull is so much bigger than the other ones. I heard it in my voice as soon as I saw it. So, once in a while you see some big guys, and that's quite a lot of fun.
You mean big in size or big in antlers?
Well, this guy was both.
Okay.
And,
nice.
And I'm not as good as my buddy Scott, who works out of Greenville. He's like Hal. He's got an acute eye for things that I don't have. And he's a good measure of that. There's other guys that can be in a helicopter and fly around and see something and see it in more detail than me. I'm more of there's a bull, there's a cow, let's keep going. So
yeah, usually those big ones from the air, they jump when they're that much bigger, they jump out pretty quick. Looks like a couple of sheets of plywood on their head, and it's fun to see.
Yeah.
Do you shed hunt at all, Lee?
I actually have dreams of shed hunting.
I'll trade you a shed hunting day for a trip in a helicopter.
Yeah. Hey, Jesus, I might, the tough part about the last 7 years of our work is that, as you can imagine, we're based in Bangor. I'm based in Bangor. I'm one of the primary responders. And since it's my project, the bottom line is if a moose dies tomorrow, and somebody, I'm going to be going out there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's a lot of wear and tear on the family. I got 2 young kids. So then to tell my wife or something, I'm going to go away for the weekend and shed hunt.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Seems like you could plan a little shed hunting around your job, couldn't you? You're looking for moose.
Well, obviously when we're in on the wintertime between looking for moose sheds or looking for chaga, it is what it is. But, it's like we go into the woods here and then we come back out and we don't make any side trips. So, and, of course, like I was saying, coming from Bangor, if I'm going, one day I'm going up to, towards Allagash, Fish River Lake.
Right.
This year going in towards Clayton Lake. And then I go back home, go to sleep, and the next morning I'm going over to Jackman. 2 years ago, so the winter before this, when we had that pile of snow and we lost a lot of our short yearlings there. I spent 6 weeks every single day, starting April 1st, going out after these moose. And, when the 6 weeks were done and everything leveled off and it was calving time for moose, I couldn't even remember what my name was anymore. I mean, it was a drain on me. It was tough. So.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah. It sounds enjoyable though. It sounds interesting and a lot of fun too.
Unfortunately it's a unique situation in the Northeast with winter tech, and that part of what we're dealing with, which is unprecedented, having so many years in a row with those kinds of losses, it's not a good thing. And so we realize that. At the same time, trying to do the best for moose management in the state. We get out there and, there's no question we like being out in the woods and looking at this, and we've developed an expertise with moose mortalities that few jurisdictions have, because, it's just not something that people do. In other places, typically we get on a moose and we have the whole carcass right there that we're taking apart. You go to a place like Minnesota where they have wolves, and the wolves gobble up the moose, and, they go look at some moose parts or whatever. And then other places, maybe even more remote than Maine, and they just can't get there within the 24 hours that we can. So we kind of see some things and are able to explore things that a lot of jurisdictions just can't do.
Hey, Hal here. Just want to take a minute to talk about the hunting club. And you can join by going right online at bigwoodsbucks.com. But anyways, I've got all my information is going in there, and it's a place where you can get together and look at my films, tips, writings, and all of that. And the best part is there's forums for you to communicate with, the rest of the club members, talk about Bigwood stuff and all of that. So anyways, $36 a year, cheaper than getting a Starbucks once a day. So join up, and hope you see you on there.
Hey guys, Joe here. Wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Lake Parlin Lodge. We're a 4-season lodge located just south of Jackman. We've got cabins, lodge rooms, mini lodge. We're a big snowmobile destination in the winter, full restaurant, bar, all the amenities that you need for your trip. Open obviously through the summer, right on the lake. Kayaks, canoes, all included with the cabin. We also do a lot of weddings, so if you're looking for a destination wedding, we can do a wedding up to 200 people. And, of course, we've got our hunting season, moose season, deer season. So check us out. We're at lakeparlinlodge.com.
Hey, everyone. Hal here. Just want to take a minute to talk about the Woodman Arms muzzleloader. We got them all set on the website to build your own or buy your Bigwoods Bucks model, either one you want to do. But anyways, we've tested it a lot, and I can honestly say it's the most accurate muzzleloader on the market, best to carry in the big woods or anywhere else at 5.5 pounds. You can't go wrong with it. So get on there and check it out.
I saw on Facebook, there was a Facebook biologist that said you ought to just shoot the moose with a pest control, and that'll take care of them all.
Oh, yeah.
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 A lot of answers on there on Facebook if you look.
Yeah, there's.
Well, we've been trying to address that quite a bit because, obviously it's very challenging for people to understand that, to save one moose, I always tell people, is a noble thing, okay? But with something like winter tick, saving one moose doesn't do anything for you. Not, saving 10 moose doesn't do anything for you. That doesn't fix the problem.
Right.
And so people have suggested, spraying the whole North Woods, or, you either spray the moose or spray the woods. Well, we're not going to spray the North Maine woods. We're not going to do that. Nobody's going to do that. It's private land. that would come with a whole host of other bad things. And then somehow people think you can just put a tick collar on a moose. Just take the helicopter and put a tick collar on them. Well, I mean, we call it 130 moose. Our guys did in a course of about 2 weeks at a cost of, a lot of money, and not to mention the fact that it's dangerous work. And that's for 130 moose. If you call it 130 moose and somehow you knew the magic formula to kill the ticks, that still wouldn't do anything. Now, here's an interesting thing: is the province of Quebec, who was started moose work last year, decided to do a study where they would initially capture the calves in January, and then, so that they knew they were starting at square one, they would take half of the captured calves and put a pesticide on them to kill the ticks, and leave the other half of the calves alone, and then recapture the calves several months later to look at what the effect was. Well, guess what? It didn't. The pesticide did not kill the ticks on those moose.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it didn't work. So they're
Right.
they're trying that. They're trying that again, but they're not doing it to propose this as a management tool. They're doing it for research to say, okay, we looked at these moose, they had no ticks. We looked at these moose, they had a bunch of ticks. That's why. But it's interesting to note that it didn't do anything. And then you have people who want a paintball gun season. And honestly, I can tell you, we tried our first year to dart moose from the road, and we really want to target a calf. Now, if you wanted to put the most bang for your buck to protect calves, you would do it in December when you know that most of the ticks that are going to get on a moose are on the moose, and you try to get them in December. Well, I tell you what, our roadside in District 8 trying to dart moose, number one, we could never dart a calf, and we were successful in darting 2 cows. In the whole entire study of over 600 moose so far, we darted two cows. Now, people might just say, well, you guys are terrible at it. But the fact is, we use spotlights at night. We use technology that other people can't use, and you can't get close enough and be safe enough. And you couldn't throw enough money at that to make that even remotely successful. You just can't do it.
Right.
But that's me,
No, I think you guys are definitely, it seems like you're on the right track as far as figuring out. I mean, it's the only way to do it, and it's better to do it in half a zone 4 than to take, the whole state and do it.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, for the comfort level of people, there's no question. And the fact is that, again, we were talking about this earlier, that you're 40 years of a moose hunt, where in the grand scheme of things, permits have not changed dramatically. We started out at whatever it was, 700 permits back in 1980, I don't remember. And we've gone as high as 4,000. And given the population size, that's really not a tremendous variation. Yet you can see when we say we're going to add 20 permits here in the big woods, people start to get a little nervous about that at times. And, the reality is, look at what the harvest looks like right next door in Quebec. And what does that harvest look like, right? It's way more than what we do in Maine. And now I'm not suggesting we manage moose like the province of Quebec, right, wrong, or otherwise. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying that it should provide people with some comfort level when they look at the actual harvest levels in the adjacent units to Maine in Quebec, right?
Right.
It's just very, very different. And
Quebec's over the counter, correct?
Yeah, for the most part, they're over the counter. They've been changing their moose management more recently, but they've had years where, right now, yeah, you can go buy. It's like hunting deer. You can go get a tag to hunt a bull, and then every other year or every third year, in some places, you could shoot a bull or a cow. And then I think most places, every year you could shoot either a bull or a calf. And they might be changing some restrictions on that. But in general, it's very comparable to deer hunting in Maine.
Yeah. I know it's crazy. It's the same way. It's the Facebook biologists. They crab about going up on the permits. But a friend of mine there, he's kind of a number cruncher there. And he just did this the other day. He figured out, he just took like in the 4 northern zones, I think he told me, and I can't remember them all, but zone 1 I did remember that. He figured out the square miles of territory in all of those zones, and zone 1 was something like 6,000 square miles or something like that. And there was, I think, 660 moose permits in that zone this year. That sound right? Between all the seasons, cows and bulls?
It sounds high, but
Yeah. Well, anyways, whatever it was, we worked it out. It came out to like, there was one permit for every 10 square miles. You're taking one moose. And you ain't even taking one because it ain't 100% success,
Yeah.
So it still is. It's a drop in the bucket, really.
Well, the other legacy that we have, of course, in the Northeast, right, is this whole thing, whether you talk about deer or moose, but the whole thing about shooting a cow or a doe and the reluctance, because people always associate, well, you shoot a cow and, you're shooting the future, right, and all this. The problem with that is that you cannot manage a moose population by shooting bulls only. You can't just keep shooting bulls, and bulls. Ultimately, if you look at management, the way they've managed moose in Canada, right, which is all the way across the board, right, in all the provinces managing moose, you see that a lot of jurisdictions that have plenty of moose usually have a bull and a calf season, because you remove a calf, you can keep your population ultimately where you want to, and then you leave the cow out there to produce more, right? But that's typically a non-starter, down here, because people are very hesitant, and I understand that. I really do understand that. I sympathize with that. I understand that about doe harvest too. But population management wise, we're facing a situation now where our cows are way less productive than they were 20, 30 years ago. They're reproducing at an older age because they're not gaining the body mass when they're young, in order to get to that size that they can ovulate and produce a calf. And this is all coming back to the fact that winter ticks are plaguing the landscape, which goes back to the fact that if you have too dense of a population, winter tick populations take off. So we need to reduce that density of winter tick by trying to reduce the moose density. Hopefully something like that would actually work, and thereby it makes the cows more productive. They breed at a younger age. They have more twins over time. And then the survival of those calves, both in their first month of life as well as their first winter, increases as well. And that's a healthy population. We're not dealing with that in some areas right now. And so I know that's complicated. And the idea of shooting cows is counterintuitive in the face of something like winter tick. And I know that's a struggle for people, and I appreciate that. But
got to rely on the science.
Yep. Interesting stuff. One more question for you, Lee. Do you people ask me all the time, and I don't really know, but what is the the odds of getting drawn now by the amount of permits? You know what that is?
Yeah, I'd have to look that up, because other people do all that stuff, thankfully, and not me.
Oh yeah.
But I know this year we had I don't know if it was a 5 or 10% bump up in applicants.
Oh, we did?
So that's good news for the department. I mean, we like to see people apply for moose permits. So, so that district one is 550 permits for this coming year.
550
for this 2020 hunt.
So it still works out to about 10 square miles for every moose.
That question though, Hal, too, changes with each person, because one person might pick only zone 8, and one person might put down every district. So
right.
So that number.
Don't get me started.
Yeah.
Don't get me started about that stuff.
The drawing. Yeah, it's always. I mean, every year it's the same thing. I mean, there's the family that's one change that I would like to see, is that one permit per household, per dress. And that might be something that people get upset about, but I think overall people would be okay with that, because there's so many instances where the household can't even, they're clamoring around trying to swap and everything, because either they have them the same week or don't, and it conflicts, or it's one moose is enough for one family in my eyes, opinion.
Let me throw this out to you. This is my idea, nobody else's. It's not the department's idea. This is my crazy idea as a moose guy. But you take what you're saying, and if a family gets 2 permits, let them defer that second permit, so
right.
they can still, they don't lose it. They just, you and your wife get 2 permits. One of those permits you defer, and you hunt next year.
Right.
That's a good idea.
And then right? So then you spread that kind of wealth because what did Hal say? 33 years it took him or something.
Yeah, 33.
Yeah, took Shanzy 40.
Anyways, I guess I just stick with the biology.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing good with it, Lee. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
Anytime.
All right. I think everybody that didn't have an interest in moose in Maine hunting, they probably do now, and maybe they'll start applying. So it's really a world-class moose hunt here, right, Lee? I mean, there's really nowhere else you can go and hunt for moose and have the numbers we have here, right?
I mentioned this before with Hal, but we're working on right now, next week will be our second series where we have a panel discussion about moose hunting in Maine. And Dave Hintosh up at Smoldering Lake Outfitters and Roger Lambert has been on that panel with me last week. It's like a moose hunting 101. And it's live at 1 o'clock every 2 weeks. So next Thursday, I'd have to double check with that. We're going to go again and talk about moose hunting. And then it's on YouTube now. So you can get to our YouTube site on the department, and people who are moose hunting for their first time or fifth time or whatever can go on and see what we're saying about how to prepare yourself. And we're going to do a whole session talking about, what we think about gutless method and all that type of stuff as well. So there'll be a lot of information on our website about moose hunting.
Yeah, right.
Nice.
Yep. All right. Well, good having you on, and keep doing what you're doing, and we'll talk to you by this winter anyways. Or by this fall, we'll probably bump into you somewhere.
That sounds good. Well, you guys stay cool. It's been a hell of a hot stretch we've had here. So
Yeah.
be looking forward to fall.
Yep. The days are getting shorter now, though.
I mark that in my head every time we hit that point in June. I'm just can't wait. So
Yeah. Okay, then. Thanks a lot for being on, Lee.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
All right, take care.
All right.
Yep,
See ya.
Bye.
All right. Well, that was pretty informative, huh?
Yeah. So what?
I thought he was going to get you them coordinates where that big bull was over here, Lee, but he never fessed them up, did he?
Oh, I'd send him a text while we were talking.
I was wondering who you were texting.
I'm like, hey, that big bull.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the drawing was a couple weeks ago. Well, when this is on, 3-4 weeks ago, and we're pretty well all. I think we got a spot or two still hanging out there, don't we, Hal?
I don't think so.
Early season, no. I got a spot. Maybe by the time this airs, there's no more spots left. But
Yeah.
it's been a the typical juggling act after the drawing with
Oh, yeah.
calls and swaps, and that's something I wanted to touch on that happened this time, and it was a matter of time till it did happen. But for anyone that's in the swap world, when you tell someone you got to swap, it's done deal.
Yeah, it's
You know?
honor system.
It is, whether it's a text or a phone call. If you say, I've got it, you got it. Because I had that happen to me where I was going into a doctor's appointment and the guy texted me and said, yep, I'll do it. And so while I'm in there, I'm texting the client and texting the guide and telling everyone it's all good. You can switch your dates. And then I get a text an hour and a half later. I changed my mind and he's giving it to someone else. So it doesn't seem like a long time to somebody, but in that hour and a half and you're contacting your clients, however it may be, it's one of those things that,
Yep.
before you commit to something like that. And the swap system is really good. There's a lot of people that you see it all the time when it's there on social media and people get bent out of shape. Why are you swapping? That's a great zone. Well, everyone's got their own personal reasons why they're swapping.
Right.
It could be date conflicts. It could be
Work issues.
Yeah.
Family issues.
someone's sick. Someone,
Could have
so
surgery. Who knows?
it
Well,
does.
a lot of times it's people get drawn in a zone and they got to camp in another zone. They want to be at their camp or their house or whatever it is.
Right.
I just never understood why anyone cared.
Yeah. Well,
It's not your tag.
that's
Yeah.
the problem.
So
I think most of them are probably it's a jealousy factor because they didn't get drawn.
Right.
yeah, and look, if you don't get the swap, you go hunting where you got to hunt. But the system is out there just for that reason, and it's a good system.
Yeah.
I think the state, it's good that they opened it up that people can do that, and but the one And I don't know if I'd even call it a fly in the ointment, but it is. It's an honor system thing, and it usually 99% of the time works out perfect, and it's good for everyone.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever heard of that, because it's always, it's been an honor system, and it's like anything else. Your word is your worth, so whoever did that to you, his word's no good anywhere anyway, so that's it.
Well, I think some people just don't understand what can happen once you say that and you start laying plans down and everything else.
Right.
They don't realize, but whatever. We ended up getting a swap, so it's all good anyway, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It's this time of year, it starts rolling quick.
Summer's going to fly by now.
So we can take our time. We can take a little more time.
Yeah. You got some houses to build, don't you, Lee?
Yeah, one's mine.
Yeah.
I'm homeless. I'm homeless as of August 1st. So
Yeah.
not that anybody's going to feel bad for me, but
Nope.
Yeah.
You got that big flatbed on the back of your truck. I'm sure you could pitch a tent on that.
I got a crew cab pickup truck and a skinny girl.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll be all set.
I'll be all set.
Yeah.
That sounds like a T-shirt to me.
Oh,
She don't listen to these podcasts, does she?
no.
That was a compliment anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So as always, guys, we want to remind everyone the merch store is up and running. We've been telling you here for the last few weeks, and if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. If you see anything on there or if you don't see something on there that you'd like to see, let us know. And remember, when you check us out on YouTube, to subscribe, hit the notification button, and also on iTunes, if you like what you're hearing, give us a review. And I think that's about it for today.
Stay tuned on the merch store. I think I'm going to do a Libs Tito's t-shirt.
Uh-huh.
I like it.
Yeah. We'll get good and pie-eyed and take a drink. Take a picture. Put it on a t-shirt.
What, is it true? I heard you went after Tito's to be a sponsor?
Yeah, actually. No, but I did go for somebody out of the box. The sponsor guy called and said, "Lib, who do you want to go after for a sponsor?" And I said, "Polaris," and it was dead silent. And he goes, "You're not messing around." No. Why not?
Yeah. Well, if anybody out there got a business or knows one that might want to be affiliated with us on this podcast or anything else, give us a shout out there. We'll see what we can do. Well, I don't know, guys, but I guess me and Joe got to head for the high country.
We already
Get
had
outta here.
lunch, so we can't even go do that.
I got to get back to work. You guys got to go.
Okay.
You've been working the whole time we've been sitting here.
Yeah, that's why Lee's been so quiet. He's texting on his phone. And
Well, when you talk to people as smart as the biologist in the state of Maine, what have I got to say that's relevant?
yeah, good point.
That's true. Yeah. We can all agree on that.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I know my place.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, we'll move it along here, and if you guys that didn't know about the moose hunt, be sure to apply if you're interested in it for next year. That I think January you can start applying for a permit and for a world-class moose hunt. Probably we can help you out with a guide here at Big Woods. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, good luck on the trail.